Welcome back to the podcast. I have with me today Jen Boyle. She is a leadership and communications expert and also the host of the Lead Quietly podcast. And I'm so excited for this conversation. We are going to talk about a few things today because Jen not only works full time, but she also has her business, which has changed a little bit over the past couple of years. And so we are going to get into that and all of those things. Introduce yourself. Let's hear all about you.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara, so much for having me on your show. I am Jen Boyle, and leadership and communications is really my area. And I specialize for introverted women and quieter women. And I like to use both of those terms, introvert and quiet, because I do think they mean different things. That the
Mhm.
introvert is more about your energy and how you recharge, and quiet speaks to those women who maybe feel hesitant and who feel a bit more shy, or they hold themselves back from speaking up, or maybe they don't like to be the center of attention. So that's why you'll hear me always use those two words. So that is the kind of woman who I want to attract in everything that I do in my podcast. And that if you're listening and that's you, you're my kind of person, and that's who I want to help. And my whole mission is to help you see that you can be a leader, whether that's in your career, in your home life, or in business, without being loud. That is
Mhm.
the real core of my whole message, because I think we assume leadership has to look one way, that it has to be very masculine, and that you need to know everything, you have to be direct, you have to be the most outgoing. And yet, if that's not who you are, your natural personality, you will feel that leadership is not for you, whether that means running your own business, showing up on
Mhm.
a networking call, or getting a promotion, or even just talking in a meeting at work. And I want to help quiet women and introverted women kind of step into that leadership so they actually do the things they want to do, and they don't let that be a block for them.
Yeah, I love that. So, how did you get into doing this? Because when you talk about that, I mean, when we're thinking about those kind of things, it would have been hard, I guess, to think about you even like transitioning into doing something like that and like stepping into being the person that does this. So how did
Mhm.
that kind of evolve?
Oh, I love this question. So there's two things. How I even sort of discovered this topic of quiet leadership, like how is that even a thing, came from my own experience of being promoted at a young age into a leadership position at work overnight, without
Mhm.
any warning, without any training. And one day my coworkers were now my staff, and I was the quiet one, and I thought, honestly, they made a mistake. Why on earth would they put me in this role? And for months I tried to model masculine leadership. I tried
Mhm.
to model what the aggressive women in the office did, and I
Yeah.
felt like such a phony and it felt awful, and it wasn't effective, because I mean, you can tell when someone is phony. And I had this aha moment a few months into this job, after hiding in my office and not wanting to, think that I could do this. And it was like I had this aha moment one day, and I said, wait a second, I don't have to do what I've seen around me. I don't have to
Mm.
run my team like they're running their team. I don't have to give a presentation like that guy. I don't have to
Mhm.
talk to my staff just because that's how she talks to her staff. And it was very empowering to realize I could give myself permission to lead a different way. And so
Mhm.
over the years, I really leaned into my natural abilities of listening and perceiving and being emotional and caring and thoughtful, and building multiple teams. So I've been in leadership roles for over 15 years now, and have come a long way. So I'm more confident, obviously, as a leader now than way back then. So that's
Mhm.
how I even discovered this sort of like quiet leadership as a thing. And then getting over my own self to get out there and just turn it into a business,
Yeah.
and put myself in line to actually start a podcast and all of that. I think a lot of women will relate to this. It has come from a deep sort of inner desire to to not waste my life, and
Yeah.
do what I want to do, to follow that dream, to listen to that voice that says you can do more, you have more potential than you're
Hmm.
using right now. And as I get older, and I'm in my 40s now, I feel that so strongly.
Hmm.
Time is passing.
Yeah.
When are you going to do it? Career, I don't know what, the next 20 years, say, of career is what I have in front of me. And do I want to just go to work every day? Or what
Yeah.
do I want to make of it? So
Yeah.
the desire for that, or alternatively, the feeling of regret if I don't, is what has pushed me through my own hesitation, through my own
Hmm.
blocks to get out there, to like be brave enough to start something. It helps to have friends. It helps to have, peers in the industry and fellow entrepreneurs. Support is so necessary. And the one thing that has helped a lot and that I love talking about as well is if you're quiet, if you're introverted or whatever, it helps to figure out how you communicate best,
Yeah.
what channels work for you and what doesn't, so that you just don't fall into the trap of copying what everyone else is doing and it not feeling
Hmm.
right. So
Hmm.
that's why I fell in love with podcasting. That's why I love writing. That's why I prefer to do some of those things over video sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. All of that is so good. There's so many things that I want to go back to in that. So, first off, I just want to say I cannot imagine you being like the masculine, like get after everyone, like hard ass leader. First off, I can't imagine you doing that. So
I love
I
it.
just have to say that, like, can't even picture that in my head. That's
Mhm.
just funny. But
Good.
then I love how you say, like, you just decided to do this because just all of that thinking about, you didn't want to waste your life. And I think that that's so important for people to think about. Like, when else are you going to do this?
Mhm. Yep.
And it's so true. Like, what, when are you going to do it? If you don't do it now, when is it going to happen?
Mhm.
And if
Yep.
it's something that you truly want to do, no matter what it is, it really doesn't matter. You don't do it now, when's going to be the time?
Yep. Yep. And the older you get, the more time is passing.
Hmm.
And it's different maybe when you're 20 and you feel like you have like so many years left and you feel kind of, young and confused and you don't know what to do with your life. And
Yeah.
it hits different after 40
Yeah.
when you're sort of looking at the back end of your working life and you
Hmm.
think, what's the impact I want to make? What's the legacy I want to leave?
Yeah.
And how do I actually want to spend my time? And I don't
Yeah.
want to spend it unhappy. I don't want to
Yeah.
spend it grinding away for the paycheck.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I know. I think about that a lot, and it's just really what do I want to do with my life? Like, what do I want to do? Not what I think everyone else thinks that I should do. What do I really want to do? And how do I want to live?
And it can be hard, like so many
Hmm.
of us, I think, feel that and desire it. And
Yeah.
then comes the hard part of how do you live it?
Yeah.
And I'm still on the journey of, trying to figure that out
Yeah.
while paying the bills, trying to
Yeah.
figure it out while still living in reality and knowing you
Yeah.
can't just burn the boats and quit. And like, it's just not that easy. So
Yeah.
it is a journey. It's definitely a journey.
Yeah. It definitely is, because there is the whole reality piece that it's not just this. You can just live the dream because you decide to. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, it's looking at all of it. So, but I love also how you talk about, you do get to choose the way that this looks, and you chose the things that you really resonated with doing. So, like your podcast, like writing more. So, talk a bit about more about that.
Well, I can say so. I've been in business for 2.5 years. And for the first two, shall we say, I I was like everyone else who just gets started. You just don't know really
Mm,
until you get in there, until you kind of get out there and you get brave enough to make a page or start posting content or start talking to people and assuming that identity, like I'm an entrepreneur, I have a business, like there's those early fumbly days. And I definitely experienced all of those things. Posting my very first Instagram story,
mhm.
sitting in the parking lot, recording it 17 times, posting it, and then immediately wanted to take it down because I looked terrible and, all those things. And I really found it was a lot of experimenting. It
Yep.
was a lot of trying things and honestly a ton of failures. It was like this didn't
Yep.
work, that didn't work, or I'm bored, I don't want to do this anymore, or I'll try this because I see someone else trying this and then I realize this doesn't feel like me or I don't like this. And it can
Yeah.
be very challenging in that time if any of your listeners are in that place too. It can be hard to sort of figure out, am I just not sticking with it and like getting over my own fears? Or am I really misaligned? And this is
Yeah.
just like a bad fit for me. And
Yeah.
oh, I was in confusion and I still get confused over that. But I kind of got caught up, honestly, in the
Mhm.
pressure of the online world. And I invested a lot of money in coaching and money well spent in that it taught me things
Yeah.
and not all of it good, right? I learned some lessons about overnight success. I learned about what works for one person might not be the strategy for you and
Mhm.
all of that. So when I would strip away all of the like what you should do or sort of the gold standard for online business, if I just tried to get quiet and I would say, okay, what do I actually feel like doing? What do I want to say to the people in my community? And
Mhm.
I would either hit record and just start talking,
Yeah.
or I would want to write. I
Yeah.
didn't want to hold up my phone and document what I was having for lunch. It's like I just
Yeah.
didn't want to do it. And I felt
Yep.
like I had to, and that was the only way. And it's like, no.
No.
And it was so empowering to realize I don't have to do that.
Mhm. And I love that so much because that's the way that I look at this too, is that you get to do it the way that you want. It literally does not matter what anybody else is doing. It does not matter. And I actually just posted a video about this and I said, like, ask yourself today, are you doing things in your business because it feels good to you? Or are you doing things in your business because you feel pressured to or like you should? Which
Mm,
is it? And like really think about that. Give yourself like 5 minutes at least to really give some thought to that
hmm. Oh,
because
yeah.
it's so important. Because there is so much that we're inundated with that it has to look a certain way, and you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or there's only this one way, or whatever.
Mhm,
There's so many ways that you can do things, and the only way that's going to work is the one that feels good for you and the one that works for you. That's it.
mhm. Exactly. And you have to be able to keep up whatever it is you're doing over time,
Mhm.
right? Like
Exactly.
people can say like consistency is key. Sure. Yeah, that's not wrong. Consistency
Mhm.
definitely is necessary. Like
Yep.
any successful brand out in the world keeps their doors open. So yes,
Yep.
like the basic business principle is there, but what does consistency mean for you? Does it
Exactly.
does it mean making TikToks and Instagram and having a Facebook group and having a
Mhm.
podcast and writing emails and burning yourself out and realizing
Mhm.
I don't like half of what I'm doing all
Yep.
day. That doesn't have to be your definition of consistency. So I think that's a great post. And I would think reality check for some of us. Why did you start a business in the first place? Did you start it so
Mhm.
you plan a whole bunch of stuff you don't like doing? Like,
Well,
doesn't make any
exactly.
sense, right?
Exactly. And I ask that too all the time. Like, why did you start this? Like, what
Mhm.
was your reason for starting? It wasn't so that you could live your life online and ignore your family and just be like posting shit to Instagram all the time. That wasn't
Mhm.
what this was for. And like, think about what you want to do with this. What's the impact you want to make? What do you want to say to who you want to work with?
Mhm.
That's what matters. That's what matters.
Yep. Yep. And there is a little bit of, yes, there are parts of business or having a business that maybe aren't sexy or aren't
Yeah.
fun, and that we all have to do things that we don't love. I mean,
Hmm.
that happens in 9 to 5 jobs too. There's parts of
Yep.
your job you don't like. I think we can all accept that. It's like, is 75% of what you're doing stuff you don't like? Then
Yeah.
it's time to have another look at it and examine it. Because and it's like, it's sort of the same as when I decided to lead my team in a different way.
Hmm.
Realize that you can give yourself permission to stop what you're doing right now and reevaluate and
Yeah.
see if there's something that can change. And I feel like so often we get caught up in the power of what we see online
Hmm.
that, oh no, come back to this way, because that's what's in our face most often.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's no, don't change because, what will people think if you pivot? What are people going to think if you do something different? What is going to, who the fuck cares?
Mhm. Or, oh
You
no, your followers might go down. Okay,
know, the
right? I
thing
can
that
handle that.
I like, the thing that I always say about that, it's just like when you post something that's very opinionated. If
Mhm.
you are going to divide people, you're either going to get people who absolutely love it and who are going to come closer to you. You're going to get people who absolutely don't agree and who are going to leave.
Mhm.
Either way, you're going to divide people and it doesn't matter, but you're going to be, you know, defining the people that you actually want there. You're seeing
Mhm.
who you actually like, who is actually there. And it doesn't matter if these are your values, if this is what you want to do, you need to do that. And it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You need to
Mhm.
do what is right for you. Period. At the end of the day, that's it.
Exactly. 100%. And here's the thing too about, like, say, established industry leaders in the online space.
Hmm.
They, and I mean, it depends what industry you're looking in, but say personal development that a lot of us are in, sort of like
Hmm.
business and personal development. There are there's maybe like a type, that's of like a handful of those like leaders and influential business leaders in this personal development industry. And maybe something they all have in common is that they're online all the time and they're big on social media and all of that.
Hmm.
Remember, they have teams who help them do that.
Exactly.
And they didn't start that way.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think for every new invention or every new like idea that has come into the world, someone
Mhm.
had to start it and someone had to
Exactly.
see like,
Yep.
oh, guys, maybe a horse and carriage isn't the fastest way to get around. Maybe I could invent something new
Yep.
and invent the car. So the same is for a quiet person leading in a quiet way.
Yep.
If no one's ever tried it, then it will never come into existence unless you keep going. So even if you
Yep.
don't have guaranteed success yet, or there are industry leaders who do it this quiet way, I still think it's
Mhm.
worth pursuing, even if it may
Absolutely.
take a while to break this new ground.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's the whole thing. You can be first.
Mhm.
Like, just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean that it can't be done. You can absolutely be first. And the thing with being first is, if it does go really well, you get to capitalize the market for that. So
Exactly.
there's that piece
Exactly.
of it too.
Yes.
But we can't be afraid of just because we haven't seen something done a certain way, not trying it or not doing it. If you feel like you want to do something a certain way or this feels really good for you,
Mhm.
fucking do it.
Mhm.
Don't hold back from that.
Exactly. Even thinking like in a professional setting, say quietly leading or kind of like leading a team in a quiet way. Sure, maybe it's not been done or in your workplace, for example. What if like that made you feel really good? That's how
Mhm.
you shine, like that's how you show up best. That's how your team actually knows you and respects you. Do you think there's a greater chance that this might work than if you adopted a kind of a phony persona and tried to like force people? Like, which
Yeah,
one do you think is more authentic and will actually work, and actually get the
exactly.
results? So that there's so much like reason to try and to do
Hmm.
it when you lean in. And I feel like when you're out of alignment in terms of like doing things you don't like doing, or you feel nervous before you have to get into your work or something, you will burn out and you can't sustain that over time. You won't be excited about it. And everyone else who you're trying to guide, like clients or a team or
Yeah,
whatever, are going to feel that from you and you'll be miserable. So then
yeah,
that makes no sense.
yeah, exactly. And this is what I say to clients all the time. If you are trying to do things in a certain way, and it's whether you are working with clients, it's even whether, I give I give the example all the time because people always want to do master classes. It's always this one. But there are a lot of people that hate doing them, but they pressure themselves into thinking that they have to because it's
Mhm.
what we see so often online. You fucking hate doing them, stop doing them.
Exactly.
You don't need to do them. There's no rule saying the only way that you're going to get clients is if you do master classes. Like that's dumb. You don't need
Hmm.
to do it. And
Hmm.
if you are trying to push these things so hard, you're not going to get them to convert the way that you're wanting to, anyways. That's not how it's going to come.
Mm-mm. Not at all. I love that about master classes because from my own experience in the first few years, I think I probably did my very first master class maybe 1 year in.
Hmm.
And if I look back, I only did that because I saw other people doing it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this must be what you do. This must be
Yep.
it. And I can't tell you the amount of hours I spent making a presentation,
Hmm.
trying to make graphics, thinking about how to promote it to people,
Yep.
being so stressed out about it.
Hmm.
And like no one showed up. And I think
Yeah.
and I wasn't really ready for that. And it's like it doesn't matter if anybody shows up. That's not being attached to results and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't even know why I was doing it. I was only doing it
Yeah.
because I was copying someone. So it was a valuable lesson I needed to learn. So
Hmm.
I don't do master classes right now because it just doesn't feel like a fit. I don't
Yeah.
even really like the word master class because it's
I know.
like it's kind of like that brand, masterclass, like with Gordon Ramsay and all like the
Hmm.
famous people who do masterclass.
Yeah.
I'm like, who co-opted that term in the
I
online
know.
influencer space and
I
said,
know.
we're all masters and let's offer classes? I find that very funny.
I
Like the lingo.
know. I know. I don't like the word. I actually love doing them. I
Hmm.
love doing master classes. It's really funny. I love teaching. I love doing them. I actually really enjoy them. It doesn't take me a long time to get ready for them because I basically just like write up the stuff that I want to do. And it's
Hmm.
not a lot of stress for me because I really enjoy it. So for me, it is something that I really like. So I do them, but tons of people hate it. And so I'm like, well, let's find something else that you actually enjoy. But I don't like
Exactly.
the word masterclass. I wish that I could find a better way to describe it.
I know. I didn't, it's sort of as a communications person, I'm
Yeah,
nitpicky about words. So I'm like, yeah, what does that even mean? I
I
think that
know.
I think that's awesome that like what you said is the key. You love doing them, so
Hmm.
they're worth doing. They're a good fit for you.
Yeah,
If it's like you hate doing, I don't know, live events or something, in-person events, say, for
yeah,
example, then don't do that because
yeah.
you're just going to stress yourself out if you think, oh, but that's what the industry does, or that's what people want. I better do that. Even this is the hard part. Even if you think it's what clients want,
Hmm.
and you really hate it and you really don't love it, then I feel like that's not going to last over time, right?
No. And the other part of that too, are those then the clients for you? If you're thinking that's what clients want, you have to really ask yourself though, are those the clients for you? Are those the clients that you want to work with? Is that actually your ideal client if that's something that they want? I would say probably not. You're looking at the wrong people
Mhm.
because your ideal clients are going to resonate with the way that you present something to them.
Mhm. Absolutely.
It's not you forcing yourself into something and hoping that they're going to come.
Yes. It comes from this sense of desperation for clients,
Hmm.
desperation to make money, and I say that because I've felt it. Like
Yeah.
I've gone through these phases of I need this to work, or I'll never be able to get ahead, or I invested all this money and I'm not making any back, so I got to push this until someone buys it.
Hmm.
And that desperate energy is no good. It actually
Yeah.
repels people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I
yeah.
would love to hear, explain now where your business is at, because I know it's transitioned a lot over the last couple of years. So where are you at now with it?
Oh, I thank you for the chance to talk about this. And, you
Yeah.
know, I think, and for anyone listening along who's like 1 to 2 years in, perhaps feeling lost, feeling like I'm not getting any attraction, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm out here sort of posting and hoping and flailing. You're not alone. I was, we've been there too. And a big shift that I've made recently is realizing that I am not necessarily one-on-one coach material,
Hmm.
and I'm okay with that, and I sort of mistakenly fell into that as a business model because I was very heavily influenced on what I saw others doing online, so when I
Yeah.
first came into the online space. So to see and identify myself and my business as a coaching business. Like
Hmm.
I teach people things and I'm going to try and get one-on-one clients or even group clients or offer a program and I'm going to help them get their transformation and all the things.
Hmm.
That is a perfectly legit business model and it is great for some people. And I almost like forced myself into that role for a long time until I realized I don't actually enjoy that
Yeah.
much as I enjoy writing content, as I enjoy recording podcasts, as I enjoy thought leadership and talking about topics, almost like my background is in academics and kind of coming at it almost with like the literature and like what's going on in this industry and how is
Hmm.
leadership changing. So coming at it from a whole other perspective and one that is personal and relatable as well, like
Yeah.
personal writing about things I've experienced and whatnot. So the direction I'm heading is to build a company that helps women, especially quiet and introverted ones, but not necessarily only them. It could be open for all women, but that does professional development and personal development a little differently. So,
Hmm.
especially professional development in terms of let's talk about things like leading as a woman.
Yeah.
Let's get beyond the stuffy hotel ballroom training corporate session and have something that's like professional development for women that feels more personal, that feels more safe and vulnerable to talk about what you're really struggling with. And that might be mindset. It might not be strategies and things like that. So I'm building my business in that way with a
Hmm.
vision that would offer like workshops and programs and maybe a mentorship or scholarships for women to have education that they're missing and some of those things. That's a very different thing than being an online coach
Yeah.
on Instagram. And
Yes.
and it took me a few years to kind of come to this place. And so I'm at the beginning of this vision and trying to build this, but the key sort of mental shift, and hopefully this is helpful for people, is well, I still am the founder, the CEO of my company. I might still be the face of my business. I am not my business as
Hmm.
100% in the same way that some people might tell you that you are,
Yeah.
on Instagram. And why I say that, especially for the quieter ones, especially for the introverts who tend to be private, who tend
Mhm.
not to love putting their whole life online, who tend not to want to spend tons of time being out there talking, 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 and
Yeah.
feel drained easily by all of that. It can feel like there's a limit you hit when you try and go the influencer route or the
Yeah.
one-on-one, I am my business route. There's a limit. It's like, I just don't have the energy to do this. I just
Mhm.
don't love being on Instagram stories enough. I don't want to be on TikTok. Like,
Yeah.
so therefore, I'm not cut out for this. So for myself, seeing that shift, I still identify as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
as someone who is smart and professional and wants to create something that has an impact. I'm going to do it in a different way than
Yeah.
online business might tell you how it's done.
Yeah. And I love that perspective because
Mhm.
we don't see that. We don't ever see that there is the option to not be that fully present person online, essentially.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's what is pushed is, you have to show it all online.
Mhm.
And if someone isn't comfortable with that, it's like, well, you don't have another option. Like it's that, or you kind of don't do this.
Yeah.
But it's not black and white. Like it's never black and white. There's always so many things you can do between that and so many other ways that your business can look and ways that you can run it and things that you can do and decide to do and show up online and show up in different places in different ways and it doesn't have to look like the standard. So I absolutely
Mhm.
love the way that you're doing it.
Yeah, it made me think about the parallel, and it was almost like, duh, how did I not see this 2 years ago? Of when I was first that new director, that new manager of a team, and I was like, ooh, well, this is the way you got to do it until I stopped,
Hmm.
realized I could do it differently, gave myself permission to do it. It took a long time to really like hone that, like
Yeah.
over a decade and 15 years of showing up every day and running a team and learning and all of that. So it was like a parallel of, wait a second, I'm doing it again. I'm like falling into this is the way business is done online. Therefore, you must do it this way. Oh, I
Hmm.
really hate this way. This isn't right, until you give yourself the permission to try a different way. And I just wanted to, what I wrote down was for the quieter and the introverted ones, or the ones who feel afraid of technology, or who maybe like get tired by social media, or they have a very busy life and they're like, maybe their kids are little or something, and they feel like, but I want this business, I want the freedom, I want the success. When you kind of get into that space, it's like a big sign saying you don't belong here. Like
Hmm.
you can't keep up. You're
Yeah.
not as flashy as these people. You're not as glamorous. You're not out, on the beach dancing around in your bikini or whatever,
Yeah.
kind of the main eye-catching content
Yep.
is. And it's saying you don't have a place here. It's
Hmm.
exactly the same as like a masculine dominated boardroom saying, women, you don't have a seat at this
Yeah.
table.
Yep.
And I want to go first. I want to break some of that down. And it might take me 10 years, but I'm
Hmm.
on this mission.
Yeah. And I think that it's just it's so amazing. And I love hearing that because I think that it's so important and it's so important for people to do that and to be the first. Like, just do it. Like, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to look this one way. And, you know, just show up in the way that you want
Mhm.
and lead the way. You don't have to be the one on the beach or the one doing whatever. And it's something that I try to do in my content as well. And that I try to say a lot is like, I try to show the imperfections and show, just like I don't repost things if I screw up or
Mhm.
whatever. I don't live a lavish lifestyle. It's none of that because that is, there are, like, obviously, there's people in the world that live that way, but a lot of us that are, in here building our businesses are not living like that.
Mm-mm.
And we need to see more of us just living real life.
Mhm. Totally.
Like,
And that's one thing I love about your brand and your whole the
thank you.
no BS, like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
saying it like it is and dispelling some of the overnight success myths or like, oh, it's so easy, just one, two, three, like
Hmm.
that kind of thing. It sets people up for disappointment, for expectations that are not realistic. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. I love talking about the relatable, normal, almost boring stuff that no
Hmm.
one points out. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I heard a podcast about it's like big name, big guest speaker, keynote speaker on stages, reputable person. And she did a podcast about what it took to prepare for one of those keynote speeches. And I just loved it
Oh,
because
okay. I thought
no,
this
it
was going
was
to go somewhere else. I
yeah,
was
no,
like,
and it was
ah,
great because
good.
she said like this took days or
Hmm.
weeks to prepare and almost like until that episode like that's not what you hear on
Yeah.
podcasts or that's not what you hear in content. Like I had rough drafts and crumpled up paper and I was frustrated and I couldn't think
Hmm.
about what to write and I practiced this out loud on a walk and someone actually tells you like the real things they do, not just like, well, I
Yeah.
prepared it's like, well, tell me more. I want to know like specifics, right?
Yeah.
And it's like all that behind the scenes, real stuff, even as like boring as I had to email back and forth with the event organizer 25 times to sort out the logistics and the details. All of
Hmm.
that stuff is so time consuming
Yeah.
and important. That's what real work is. That's what real business takes.
Yeah.
And no one puts that sort of like the time it takes to do that into your expectations. You think, I'm
Hmm.
just gonna work at this coffee shop, put out some content, and then the clients are
Exactly.
flying in, right? That's like
Exactly.
that's not real.
No, no. And it's so true because we don't hear about everything that goes into it
Hmm.
and all the time that it takes. What we see, like for the speaker example, what we see is the
Hmm.
flashy pictures of them on stage nailing their speech.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, they didn't just like hop up there one day and that just happened.
With full hair and makeup and a designer outfit. It's
Like, no,
yeah,
no. If
yeah,
it were me, I might do that. But
yeah.
I don't tend to prepare like that's maybe one of my toxic traits is I don't.
But if that's your style, that's great. If you can think on your feet and stuff, it's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm on walks, I like picture myself if I was ever going to speak on stage and I'm like, that's what I would say. And I'm like, oh Lord, I should probably, if I ever actually get asked to speak somewhere, prepare beforehand.
No.
But who knows? We'll
Who
see.
knows?
I
Yeah.
will update if that happens and how I prepared, which will probably be not much.
I love it. But at least you're owning it, right?
Yeah.
You're owning it. And I think, yeah, yeah, that's funny. That could have gone a different way.
I know, I
Right.
thought, yeah, I thought it was going to because I've heard that too, where it's just like,
Mhm.
this was so easy. And I
Yeah.
did just hop up there and the words flowed to me and blah, blah, blah. And it's like bullshit. And
Yeah.
that's not how I'm saying that I do it. It's just that
Yeah.
my style is so laid back that I don't over prepare. I kind of just say like what's on my mind at the time.
Hmm.
That's literally my style. It just is.
Yeah.
So if I was going to speak at something that was like very formal, I would prepare for it. I'm not saying that I would do that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just,
But
I don't know.
yeah, you're modeling though, like the exact thing I was talking about with realizing I like podcasting. It's
Mhm.
you are not trying to over formalize yourself. You're not
No.
sitting there thinking, "Ooh, I need to write a professional sounding, speech before I record a video," because that wouldn't be
Mhm.
you, right? And
Nope.
if you thought that's what it took, Like, doesn't that sound crazy? That
Yeah.
like for you to think that you had to do it that way, and yet so many of us, like
Hmm.
early entrepreneurs, are doing that same thing, just in reverse. We're
Yeah,
thinking we got to be laid back, we got to be, you know, cool and all this stuff, and you got to just sort of like walk around your house and show your outfit of the day or whatever. And anyone who does that, I'm not thinking that's bad. I think if you love doing that, I'm happy for you. That's amazing.
that's
But for
totally fine. Yeah.
someone, yeah, for someone who feels like that isn't me, oh, there's no other option. And I think that's the
Yeah.
mistake. Yeah.
No one wants to see my outfits of the day. All it consists of is leggings and bunny hugs. And if you are not from Saskatchewan, you don't know what a bunny hug is anyway. So it's a hoodie.
And sweatpants. Exactly. I was like,
Yeah,
you want to see that? It's sweatpants.
really
That's
not exciting. So
yeah,
we can
exactly.
start doing that if you like really want to see it, but I don't think it's going to be.
Mm-mm. No, I don't think so.
No. It's funny. Anyways, this was great. I love this conversation. I think that it touched on like so many really good things. And I love the way that you are just like going forward in your business and, really being the first to do this
Mhm.
and just going forward in that way.
Thank you. It feels like scary, and I have no guarantee it's going to work. And yet I feel strong enough, sort of like in this mission or this vision I have, to keep going. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's so thank you. I needed the reminder that going first is good, because sometimes you
Yeah.
can make you feel like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think like that's so important when you feel like you are so passionate about it, it's so much easier.
100%.
Yeah. So where can people find you for all of the things?
I am hanging out every week on my podcast. So the Lead Quietly podcast, and it's on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. And I also have a free Facebook group, and it's called the Quiet Leader Community. You can just find it on Facebook. And it's a small group. And what I love about that Facebook group, it's for entrepreneurs, it's for career women, it's for stay-at-home moms, whoever. It's those of you who identify more as like quiet and introverted. That's who's in there. And I'm really striving to make it feel safe, make it feel welcoming and inclusive, and not loud and not in your face.
Mhm.
So I actually don't care if you ever introduce yourself in the group. That's okay. If you're not commenting and you're just lurking because that's kind of where your energy at, great. You're in the right place. And I wanted to create something that felt a little different and not so in your face as maybe some of
Mhm.
the bigger groups. So
Yeah.
would love to have people find me there. So those would be
Awesome.
the two best places.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. So definitely go check Jen out at those places. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are on YouTube, make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.